Hey there, pirates. Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. Vega Punk may have created a seraphim clone of Luffy before realizing he was the sun god Nika. And Imu keeps this dark trump card as a final weapon against the Straw Hat. And you're about to find that out now. Picture the scene. In a final showdown, maybe at Laugh Tale or during the war against the world government, Luffy glowing with Gear 5th and laughing like Nika faces, a hooded figure emerging from the shadows of Mary Joy. The figure pulls back the hood, revealing a face identical to his own, but without the sparkle in the eyes, without the laughter. It's S. Luffy, a seraphim clone created by Vega Punk, with Lunarian wings burning in black flames and an elastic body replicated through green blood, but programmed by Imu to destroy the true sun god. Luffy, tilting his straw hat, laughs first. Ha 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 ha! Another me! Can you do Gear 5th too? But the weight drops like an anchor when S. Luffy strikes, stretching his arms with cold precision without Nika's chaotic joy. From the empty throne, Imu smiles with red eyes, revealed back in Chapter 1085, knowing the clone is the ultimate weapon against Joy Boy's heir. The theory starts with the Seraphim, introduced in Chapter 1065 as perfect clones of the warlords, mixing DNA with devil fruit lineage factors and Lunarian technology. S-Hawk replicates Mihawk, S-Bear copies Kuma, S Snake mirrors Hancock, all powered by green blood that recreates paramecia abilities. Like the Nikyu in Chapter 1070, Vega Punk, the scientist with a brain bigger than Punk Hazard, is obsessed with cloning fruits. In Chapter 1069, he explains that devil fruits are human desires made real, and in Chapter 1070, he reveals he extracted Kaido's factor to create Momonosuke's fruit. But what if years earlier, he collected samples from Luffy maybe after Eni's lobby in Chapter 435 when the Straw Hats blew up as a global threat? At the time, Vega Punk thought the Gomu Gomu no Mi was a simple paramecia, not the mythical Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, only revealed in Chapter 1114. An S Luffy clone built with green blood to replicate elasticity would have been stored in Mary Joy's under Imu's control, waiting to be activated against the real Nika. Vega Punk's genius is also his curse. In Chapter 1062, he admits flaws in the Seraphim, like needing green blood for complex powers. Cloning Luffy before Egghead, without knowing the mythical potential, would have resulted in an S Luffy with basic elasticity, maybe Gears 1 through 3, but without Gear 5th's awakening, which requires the will for freedom revealed in Chapter 1044. That makes the clone an imperfect but deadly trump card. With Lunarian wings and superhuman strength, he would be a war machine without Luffy's laughing soul. Imu, who destroys islands with demonic powers in Chapter 1085, would keep S. Luffy as an anti-Nika, programmed to obey, just like the Seraphim in Chapter 1100, who follow a strict chain of command. Celestial dragons at the top, with Imu above them all. Think of the irony. Luffy, who turns battles into cartoons in Chapter 1045, fighting a dark mirror that stretches without smiling, a puppet of Imu designed to erase the sun. How did Vega Punk get the DNA? Easy. Luffy leaves trails of blood everywhere. In Chapter 549, he bleeds an Impel down. In Chapter 580, at Marineford, he's wounded. CP9 or CP0 agents like Lucci in Chapter 1069 could have collected samples for Vega Punk, who, under government orders, created S. Luffy as a secret experiment. In Chapter 1044, Who's Who reveals the Gomu Gomu had been guarded for 800 years. Imu, alive since the Void Century revealed in Chapter 1086, would have known its potential, but Vega Punk, kept in the dark, cloned Luffy thinking he was just rubber. Only in Egghead, in Chapter 1114, does Vega Punk uncover the truth about Nika, maybe realizing his mistake. I created a monster that Imu can use against the sun god. His death in Chapter 1115, where he reveals the world's secrets, could include a warning about S. Luffy left behind in a journal or transmission. Imu's plan is devilish. In Chapter 1084, Sabo sees the empty throne. Imu, already knowing about Nika, would keep the clone as insurance against Luffy's awakening. In Chapter 1060, Imu vaporizes Lulusia with a shadowy, power-imagined S. Luffy as an extension of that, a clone with elasticity and Lunarian flames, but without the freedom that defines Nika. The clone would be activated in the final arc, maybe in Mary Joy's or Laugh Tale, when Luffy threatens the balance of the world in Chapter 1115, where Vega Punk warns that the seas are rising from ancient wars. S. Luffy, with hollow eyes and green blood pulsing, would be Imu's weapon to break Luffy's spirit, forcing him to fight himself. The clash would be pure emotional chaos. Luffy, in Gear 5th, laughing while turning the battlefield into a circus against S. Luffy, who stretches with cold precision, launching soulless attacks. In Chapter 1045, Luffy's awakening makes enemies laugh, but S. Luffy, without the will of D, would be immune, a mirror reflecting the power without the essence. Picture the scene. Luffy shouts, "Hey, copycat! Why don't you laugh? Let's see who can stretch more," while the clone, wings blazing, attacks with a programmed Gomu Gomu no pistol. It echoes Sanji fighting his Germa family in chapter 852, but on a cosmic scale. Luffy against an artificial brother, threatening his identity as the sun god. Vega Punk's regret would add depth. In chapter 1069, he laments experiments that serve the government. Discovering that S. Luffy is Imu's trump card would shatter him. Maybe an egghead. Before dying, he leaves a cryptic message. Luffy, be careful. I created a you that doesn't smile. In chapter 1100, the Seraphim obeys strict orders. S. Luffy, directly controlled by Imu, would be a machine without freedom, in sharp contrast with Luffy's laughter that liberates islands in chapter 1044. Imu, the eternal manipulator, would use the clone to exploit Luffy's trauma like the loss of Ace in chapter 576, forcing him to face a self that represents submission to the system. Visual clues reinforce the theory. In chapter 1072, S. Shark uses the Sui Sui no Mi with green blood. S. Luffy would have the Gomu Gomu replicated, maybe with Lunarian flames to mimic Gear 5th without the awakening. In chapter 1158, God Valley connects the D. Bloodlines, Luffy's DNA with the Nika factor would be gold for Vega Punk, who cloned him without realizing the extent. Imu, aware of the potential in chapter 1086, would hide the clone in Mary Weiss, maybe in a secret chamber like the giant straw hat in chapter 906. The clone would be a false Nika, elastic, but without the laughing solo weapon to blot out the true sun. The battle would be Luffy's ultimate test as the sun god, S. Luffy, with wings and green blood stretching like a robot, while Luffy counters with chaotic creativity. In chapter 1043, the drums of liberation echo. S. Luffy, without will, would be a silent drum, a puppet Imu uses to try erasing Nika's music. Luffy would win with laughter, proving freedom stronger than technology. Imagine the impact, Luffy hugging the defeated clone saying, "You're me, but without friends. Let's eat some meat together." It would echo Oda's theme of redemption like Sabo's return in chapter 672, but with a clone as his dark mirror. Imu's trump card would fail by underestimating the D, Soul. In chapter 1114, Vegapunk says that Nika is the desire for freedom. S. Luffy, without that, would be an empty echo, unable to surpass the original. In chapter 1084, Sabo witnesses Imu's power. The clone would be an extension of it, created to hunt Luffy when he threatens the throne. Vegapunk, before knowing about Nika, would create S. Luffy as an experiment, only realizing the mistake too late. His death in chapter 1115 while transmitting truths could include a warning. Luffy, Imu has your clone a you without a soul. In the final arc, S. Luffy emerges as Imu's weapon, maybe activated when Luffy reaches Laugh Tale, guided by the poneglyphs in chapter 967. The battle would be psychological. Luffy, who laughs at death, facing a self who does not laugh, forcing him to prove that Nika is more than power, it is will. In chapter 1060, Imu destroys islands. S. Luffy would be his personal destroyer, designed to extinguish the sun. But Luffy, with his friends and laughter, overcomes the clone, showing that technology cannot defeat freedom. This theory turns Vegapunk into a reluctant creator. In chapter 1062, he laments serving the government. S. Luffy would be his greatest mistake, used by Imu against his friend. In chapter 1100, the Seraphim are perfect weapons. S. Luffy, with green blood and wings, would be the ultimate weapon, but fails for lacking the D soul. Imu, ever manipulative, would keep the clone as a plan against Nika, knowing since chapter 1044 that Luffy is the greatest threat. The revelation would come in Mary Joas, with Luffy invading and finding S. Luffy in a chamber, shouting, "You're my clone, time to show who the real Pirate King is." The confrontation would echo themes of identity. In chapter 852, Sanji faces his past. Luffy would face his artificial future. S. Luffy, with Lunarian flames and elasticity, would be a Nika without a heart, a trump card Imu uses to try to break Luffy's spirit. But Luffy, with Nika's laughter, would win, proving that freedom is stronger than clones. In chapter 1115, as the world sinks, S. Luffy would stand as the last obstacle before Luffy faces Imu, uniting pirates and allies against the empty throne. This storyline fits Oda's style. Villains use technology against will, like Caesar in chapter 698. Vegapunk, creator of S. Luffy, would be the regretful scientist, while Imu, with the clone, is the puppeteer who underestimates the D, Soul. In chapter 1086, Imu's Imu's longevity suggests eternal planning, keeping S Luffy since Enies Lobby would be typical. The theory elevates Luffy's journey. Defeating his clone means defeating the fear of being just power, affirming that Nika is pure freedom. In the end, S Luffy, Imu's trump card, becomes the ultimate test. Luffy, laughing like Nika, surpasses the soulless clone, proving that the sun god shines beyond technology. Vega Punk's mistake creating a Luffy without laughter is corrected when the original even freezes Dark Mirror, maybe convincing S Luffy to smile. This saga of clones and freedom turns One Piece into a tale of soul versus machine, with Luffy's laughter lighting up Imu's abyss. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.